Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. My name is Michelle Cousins, and along with Margaret Henderson, I'm proud to serve as your co-president of the Board of Trustees. My family and I have been coming here for about 11 years now, and I've served on several other committees and teams and things, and I'm always around and available, and I'd love to hear from you. But this morning, I want to say how pleased and proud I am that we have finally been able to pull off this multi-platform congregational celebration and worship service today. Great to see folks in person, and hello to you Zooming at home. I'm so glad that you're able to join us today. In our weekly services are more than just a gathering of our physical bodies, and we form a sacred time together. And now we're able to do it virtually and in person. It's so exciting. We've been doing this now for 199 years, and we work to build a more just world, and in the sense of sacredness and along with deep respect, we acknowledge that our physical building is on the traditional land of the Pagusset people. If you're joining us online, we invite you to introduce yourself in the chat box where you're connecting from, and if you're comfortable letting us know a little bit about you. If you're here in person as a guest, we invite you to fill out a guest card and drop it in the basket on the table in the foyer as you leave today. After our service, we invite those of you visiting in person to step outside and take a moment to greet each other. And those of you at home will participate in the breakout groups for individual connection and deeper check-ins. We welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, whatever your theological stance, whatever your heritage, whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. You can learn more about UU Danbury on our website and Facebook page, and we encourage you to share our Facebook page and reach out to those who may feel isolated and might benefit from the spiritual connection of our loving community. We have a few announcements today. For those of you at home, I'll invite you to look at your screen and see what's going on. As far as the folks here in Fellowship Hall with me, instead of doing announcements at this time, I just want to go over kind of a few reminders for our service in person today. First of all, it is amazing to see you all here. I want to just remind you, as I'd gone over last week, some of the things that will help keep everyone safe and healthy. One of them is that we unfortunately cannot sing while we're in Fellowship Hall, but I invite you to hum along with Jerry, okay? So humming is okay, singing will come later. We do want you to enjoy the service, and of course music is a big part, but we can't sing. So humming, that's number one. Number two, we will not be passing collection plates around during our offertory. What will happen is, I believe Bob Bollinger has volunteered. He's going to be holding a canister on your way out. If you want to drop your donation or your check, please see Bob and fill up that canister for us, okay? So we're not going to be passing a plate around during offertory. And then finally, we're not going to be doing coffee hour in person. Folks that are Zooming will go in their breakout rooms. People that are here on the ridge, I invite you to step outside. You're welcome to congregate out there. But once the service is over, I'm going to ask that you try to leave as quickly as possible. We're trying to minimize the amount of time that we're all in one room together for everyone's safety. And with that, I want to welcome you again to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury, where we welcome all in a spirit of compassion, inquiry, and service. We now have a video for our first song this morning. Those of you at home, please sing your hearts out. And those of us here, we will now hum to Now Let Us Sing.
Now let us sing. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the faith within. Sing to the power of the hope within. Sing to the power of the hope within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the hope within. Sing to the power of the love within. Sing to the power of the love within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the love within. Sing to the power of the joy within. Sing to the power of the joy within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Sing to the power of the joy within.
And isn't it wonderful to be together? I have to echo Michelle's words. It is so good to be with you here and to be with you on Zoom. How wonderful that we can do two things at once. Who said that we can't walk and chew gum or talk and chew gum? Before I bring to you the opening words, I do want to take just a very brief moment to offer some thanks. Last week, if you were on the Zoom call and Michelle went through the protocol for today, I thanked all of those who, since I arrived here, worked so hard to bring us to this day, researching, putting together the protocols. I hope I listed everyone, and if I didn't, just know that I know who you are, and all of us are grateful. Today, I just want to say a brief word of thanks to all those who worked before my arrival. This did not just come about. This has been in the works for quite some time. And so I want to express a special thanks to the previous board and board president, Melody Levy, to all of you who behind the scenes were working, and to our anonymous donor, because without that donor and without all of that work and without what has been done in just the last few weeks, we could not be here today. And we would not be able to come via Zoom and be able to share our message and the beloved community we have here all over the world. Remember, we have someone in Thailand who I hope is on the call today. So we are truly international. How wonderful is that? And take just a brief look. Don't move from your seats. We're going to zip, lock it, put it in our pocket, but I want you to look around and see who's here and offer a wave to people you have not seen in a while.
Anybody else need a hearing assist?
Does anybody need a hearing assist? This would be a good time to offer that. Okay, thank you, Carl. This is a call for all the people longing for liberation, all who wander too often the desert, not sure of the way forward, too often thirsty and afraid, looking for water. Here is a call to collect ourselves and the hopes that we have tucked away, set aside too often for another day. Here we are building a welcome table that never finds its end. There is nothing tidy or perfect that is possible in this journey. Abundant life is messy. Abundant life is glorious, and it's filled with risk. This is a call for the diving in with all the dreams of your heart, the struggles, the silliness, the fear, the hunger, the courage, the community, the love. Here, we remember that the time for hope and joy is always now. So come, let us be together in this sacred time on this special day. I'd like to invite Rick Cousins to come and light our chalice and lead us in our words of affirmation.
Please join me in the response that's on the screen for our chalice lighting affirmation. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life.
Good morning. It is indeed good to be together. I am here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury this morning, but this is an experiment in mixing online and in person. I just had to remember, because we're doing this experiment, that there's an echo in the fellowship hall, so I needed to lower my voice and slow down. We've decided to have me stick with broadcasting the story from my office this week. Next Sunday, we can do it differently. Whatever your age, if you're tuning into the service from home and listening right now, but not near the screen, I encourage you to come on over for a little while. We're about to say our children's affirmation, and I'll share a story with pictures, and then it will be the time for joys and sorrows. While you're on your way over to the screen, let me remind families that we meet for religious education at 11:30. Participants should dress for the weather and wear a mask. And I also want to invite participants to bring a camping or beach chair to sit on if available. Please let me know if you have any questions. Let's say together the children's affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. And now our story, Not Quite Narwhal by Jessie, Sima. Kelp was born deep in the ocean. He knew early on that he was different from the other narwhals. His tusk wasn't as long as everyone else's. He had different tastes in food, and he wasn't a very good swimmer. But his friends didn't seem to mind, and Kelp decided he wouldn't either. That is, until he was swept away by a strong current. I wish I were a better swimmer. Kelp found himself on the surface, closer to land than he'd ever seen before. High up on a cliff, he spotted a mysterious, sparkling creature. It looked so familiar. It looked like kelp. Kelp swam toward land as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast at all, hoping that he could catch up with the creature that looked just like him. When he finally reached the shore, Kelp felt a bit anxious. He had never left the ocean. He was nervous about walking for the first time, but the land creatures made it look so easy. Oof, it wasn't. Ow. Eventually, he got the hang of it. Everything on land was strange and beautiful, but also kind of scary. Kelp began to think he might never find the creature that looked just like him. But as he stumbled out of the forest, land narwhals actually were unicorns. And by the looks of it, so are you. Kelp had never heard of unicorns before. They taught him all sorts of new things about his tusk. We call them horns. Wow. They introduced him to unicorn delicacies and they showed him how to gallop. There was no doubt that Kelp was, in fact, a unicorn. He was having so much fun that he didn't want to leave. But then he remembered all his friends under the sea. Kelp missed them terribly, so he said goodbye to the unicorns and returned to the ocean. Kelp swam toward home as fast as he could, which wasn't very fast at all, hoping that the narwhals would still like him now that he was a unicorn. When he finally arrived, Kelp had butterflies in his stomach. Welcome home, Kelp. Kelp took a deep breath and told his friends the news. It turns out I'm not a narwhal. Of course you aren't. I'm a unicorn. We all knew that. They took it quite well. Kelp was happy to be home, but now that he'd experienced life on land with the unicorns, he couldn't seem to forget them. Did he want to be a land narwhal with the unicorns or a sea unicorn with the narwhals? Kelp couldn't decide. But then he realized that maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to choose.
Thank you, Sierra Marie. We move into a time that is precious in beloved community. It's a time of shared milestones. We've been doing it online for quite a while, and I still want to invite those who are tuning in via Zoom to consider what you have brought with you, what you are bearing today on your heart, on your shoulders, the great joys, the deep concerns and sorrows. And if you're online, if you would go ahead and type those into the chat box. But let the chat box for now be just for the milestones and not for the wonderful comments that usually accompany them. And here, together, we want to give you the opportunity to speak aloud while masked your milestones today. This is a portion that will not be recorded. So we will hear and we will read aloud the milestones from the chat, but this portion of the service will not be recorded. This is sacred, this is precious. So I'm going to invite Rick to This morning's reading comes from Meg Goodmanson. It will not always feel good, this growing, this stretching beyond the boundaries of the known and the comfortable. It will not always feel safe, this learning and relearning of our own abilities, this re-examining of beliefs, this pushing of envelopes, this breaking through enclosing walls. You will shiver. You will doubt. You will want to run home back behind walls of safety. This walk to the edge will not always feel good or safe or comfortable, but there is no faster way to learn. There is no other way to grow. So step out. Step out and leave your home base, your comfort zone, your cocoon. Acknowledge the fear and the discomfort, but step out all the same. With each step you take, your world expands. Your caterpillar mind will strain to comprehend the unbounded vastness of the sky. Step out. Step, step, step. Unfurl your wings. Fly.
It is now time for our congregational offering. For those of you here for the first time, feel free to pass the plate, as your presence here is your gift to us. Online members, please express your generosity by clicking the link posted in the chat to make a donation or pledge. While not everyone is here in our sacred space on the Ridge, our operating expenses remain the same. Please consider using the Simple Give barcode or link, or feel free to mail a check to UUCD at 24 Clapboard Ridge Road here in Danbury. For those of you in the fellowship hall, there will be someone at the door to accept offerings as you leave our service today. Please join me now in our congregational response. In the spirit of compassion and service, we dedicate these, our offerings.
Thank you, Jerry. Autumn Leaves, one of my favorite pieces. It was gorgeous. And what a beautiful day to have that song played. Monday, October 11th. It was many things. Some still called it Columbus Day. Most referred to it as Indigenous Peoples Day. But October 11th was something else. How many people, I won't see you on Zoom, but you could still raise your hand. How many people know what else October 11th was? Right, a few. And how sad that not many. October 11th was National Coming Out Day. I spent a small portion of that day considering how I have engaged with the LGBTQ community as a sister, as a neighbor, as a minister, as a Unitarian Universalist. I remember the confusion over 30 years ago when my youngest brother came out and I saw my parents struggle to make sense of something they did not understand. I remember the fear when on more than one occasion my brother barely escaped very serious harm because of his identity. I remember the joy of officiating his wedding 8 years ago. I remember the anger when standing on the street corners in San Diego, standing with my Unitarian Universalist congregants for marriage equality while being spit on and threatened by passing cars. I remember the tears when at a San Diego Pride parade, I offered mom hugs to anyone who had been rejected by their family because of their coming out. And then I thought, it's not over. My work is not done. I thought about the fact that there is still more support to give. There is still more to be done. And I was humbled. When you drive in here, or perhaps you've seen on the website, you know what is hanging, what is flying proudly at the entrance of this beloved community. It is something that has had to be replaced at least once, if not twice. Our rainbow flag that we fly to show to all who pass by that we support. We are a welcoming congregation, designated, and yet our work is not done. Despite advances in the fight for LGBTQ equality, young people today, young gay people today, are even more likely to have attempted suicide than in previous generations. And that fact shocked me. I thought we had come so far. In fact, lesbian, gay, and bisexual teens are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide as their straight peers. And more than 1 in 4 transgender people has faced violent assault. And the rates are even higher for trans women and for trans people of color. So while we fly our rainbow flag, we are proud to do so. We are determined to persevere. And while we are recognized as a welcoming congregation, our commitment doesn't stop there. The work is not done. We must not only honor the lives of those in the LGBTQ community and the struggles, but also acknowledge there is something else. There is continual need for hope. Hope, not some juvenile, wishful nonsense. And in fact, I'm not referring to optimism because the two are not the same. It's not about positive thinking. Unlike optimism, hope is rooted in complete and unreserved reality. Hope is not passive. Hope doesn't just sit back. Genuine hope requires action and knowledge. Hope Hope is the elevating feeling we experience when we see in the mind's eye a path to a better future. This is the work before us, finding ways to be truly a beacon of hope here in Danbury and beyond. Hope acknowledges those significant obstacles and the deep pitfalls along the path. It acknowledges them because true hope has no room for delusion. We will be honest. So for our purposes today, I ask you to consider hope as born of three facets: courage, change, and community. Our beloved community and our work here is to offer hope that gives courage. Courage to confront circumstances and the capacity to surmount them. Courage. It's defined as the ability to do something you know is difficult or dangerous. Courage from the Latin for the heart. The heart, the seat of feelings. And sometimes the very act of coming out requires courage. And sometimes it's not the occasion of coming out. It's the courage to simply and fully be who you are. Isn't that what each and every one of us wants to do? We want to be who we are. And sometimes that requires courage. Who you truly are, and maybe who you are is a unicorn in a world of narwhals. We are privileged today to hear three brief experiences from people who have exhibited courage, who have found hope in change, and who have been supported by community. We begin with one of our very own beloved. We begin with the experience of our own Jerry Phelps. I asked Jerry to record so that we could actually see his full face and hear him. So I invite you now to enjoy Jerry.
Hi, I am Jerry Phelps. I am very fortunate to be the music director at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. When I think about my coming out story, I don't really have a contentious or dramatic one. Truly, I'm not even sure that I ever really came out at a singular moment where I announced to everyone that I'm gay. For the overwhelming majority of my life, I've always been known as Jerry, the fill in the blank. Pianist, singer, teacher. I had an identity and designation from an early age. People sort of just knew exactly where to categorize me. Growing up in an evangelical Christian tradition, I had a slightly different experience. My parents were married at a very young age, having quit high school. And they had a group of friends that many others would likely deem somewhat misfits. In this fascinating group of characters, there were two gay male lovers. And even though nobody ever talked about their sexuality, it just sort of was. So somewhere along the way, I think I likely adopted that same mentality. I didn't really think about my sexuality. I didn't have a strong pull toward coming out, nor did I consider myself, quote unquote, in the closet. Much of how I viewed my own sexuality back then was rooted in this idea that my sexuality could be out of sight and out of mind. It seemed easier to me that way. Just stick with being Jerry the singer or the musician or the teacher. Only looking back at it now, I realize how my immediate family, my parents in particular, were much more open-minded and accepting than most others I grew up around. For me, learning to live my life as authentically as possible involves much more than my sexuality. And in fact, it's a bit of a weird thing to explain to people. The support of my friends and family to truly live as who I am and have always been is one of the greatest gifts I've received in my life. none of this is to say that there haven't been deeply challenging aspects of myself and my sexuality that I've had to learn to navigate, but I can confidently say the love of others has absolutely had a profound positive impact on all these experiences.
Maya Angelou wrote so beautifully, "We, unaccustomed to courage, exiles from delight, live coiled in shells of loneliness until love leaves its high holy temple and comes into our sight to liberate us into life. Love arrives, and in its train come ecstasies, old memories of pleasure, ancient histories of pain. Yet, if we are bold, love strikes away the chains of fear from our souls. We are weaned from our timidity into the flush of love's light. We dare be brave, and suddenly we see that love costs all we are and will ever be. Yet it is only love which sets us free." My own parents had to muster the courage and the fortitude to change their perspective, to change their religious community, to change their friends. When my brother came out, there was change. It wasn't an easy task, but they knew that change is a necessity for life. It is change that usually involves the shedding of old ways, but it isn't something that comes easily. It doesn't happen automatically. It begins with awareness, and it comes with willingness. Awareness and willingness, two fundamental resources of spiritual growth. Change that shifts perspective can be scary business. A lot of us do whatever we can to avoid it. We're not unlike the two caterpillars crawling along when all of a sudden a butterfly flies overhead and one of us turns to the other saying, "You'll never get me up in one of those things." We cling tenaciously to our habitual ways of doing and thinking because that's what we know. That's what we understand. That's what we've been taught. We resist what is different, what is unknown, what is difficult to understand. We waver, going back and forth between fear and doubt. We resist. But I will tell you that change is not what happens to us, but what we do with what happens to us and who we decide to become because of the change that happens to us. We have another experience to be shared by another beloved part of this community. Someone who speaks to not only the courage, but also the change and community. And so I direct your attention once again to the screen so that you might hear the experience of David Parr.
Hello, my name is David Parr, and I am very proud of the courage and strength my transgender daughter shows by living as her authentic self. Her true self in a world that too often tries to impose limits, can be inhospitable, or even worse. It gratifies me deeply that she knows who she is and knows and believes that any issues with being transgender are a reflection of our culture's ignorance, intolerance, and injustice, and not her. Having a transgender daughter, it's humbling. In many ways, I'm not the father or the man I thought I was. Simply by being her authentic self, our daughter has taught us so much about ourselves and the world that we live in, the good, the bad, and the ugly. When I was in high school, I read the book, The Road Less Traveled. It influenced my decision to live abroad for 3 years, then become a psychologist and work in a prison for 20 years, and also marry a Black woman when it was still somewhat taboo. And while perhaps these are relatively roads less traveled for a cisgender straight white guy, I've always had mainstream templates designed for me to operate from, and a lot of comforts and privileges to lean on. Having a biracial, transgender daughter and seeing the world through this vulnerable lens has challenged my views and my upbringing, and the way I see the world and the way I see myself to the core. As a family, we are constantly learning and unlearning, as well as celebrating and also struggling with being on a road that we are forging together. And while I can often feel unmoored, I am deeply grateful to be on this journey. While I am an ongoing work in progress, I feel that I am better and more whole as a person because of these experiences. So to me, National Coming Out Day is really about coming out as authentic. It just happens to be playing out around gender and sexual identity. Simply by being her true self, my daughter has blasted through my previous definitions of limits and vulnerability and authenticity, mine and others. Jack Nicholson said in the film A Few Good Men, "You can't handle the truth." And I've come to realize that a lot of people can't, or don't want to, or choose not to, a lot more than I imagined. Some of my relationships were lost, and that has been painful, but new and unexpected relationships in community have been forged, like with you, and that is very gratifying to me. All of which has taken my goal of being on the road less traveled to a whole new level. And in this regard, my daughter is my role model. I'm still her father, and when she doesn't do the dishes, there are consequences, of course. But on a human level and essence level, she is often my teacher. And she is a role model, not just for the LGBTQ community, but for anyone to live or is trying to live their life authentically. Thank you.
Shifting perspective, living authentically. It's a challenge. It is a challenge. But it's a challenge that is necessary if we as a congregation are to fulfill our commitment to the portion of our mission that calls us to create a just society. In our commitment to work for a just society for all, we create the conditions for hope. A hope not based on fantasy, but on the solid ground of human determination and achievement. Because the truth is, for every person that speaks up, there is the creation of the possibility of changing more hearts and minds, creating new advocates for equality. Hope is born of courage, it is born of change, and it is born by the strength of community. Our last story does not come from a member of this community, but it's someone I want you to know. Her name is Beatrice, and she is 10 years old. Beatrice and her mother attend our sister congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Montclair, New Jersey. I worked with Beatrice's mother at the UU Legislative Ministry of New Jersey when I was there. I spoke to Beatrice's mother about having a piece of her story shared here today, because I know she speaks of the strength of community. And B has had a story time video that she has produced, and so they asked that I show a very small portion of that for you today. So I'd like to direct your attention one last time and have you meet. It may be a little loud, so prepare yourself. We're going to try to make sure it's okay. But please meet Beatrice.
And the very first time that I was going to go to school in girl clothes, I was so excited and happy, and I was also kind of scared because I was wondering what everybody's reaction would be. Sure, it did take a while for everybody to get used to, and it was a very happy experience for me because the teachers and counselor at my school were so accepting, and it made me feel really welcome and happy, and it just made me feel so good, and it made me feel like I wasn't a like little speck of dust in the universe. My guidance counselor at school was one of the most accepting people, and she really supported me, and it made me feel like she just gave me so much courage, and I love everybody who supported me at school. I think I'm gonna cry. Yeah. Just having so many happy moments. Crying happy tears. I'm so proud.
Yes, Beatrice's UU community was supportive, but the fear was, what would the school community be like? And Beatrice has been so fortunate to have a school community that supports her. Not all of our trans kids have that. We can speak out. We can speak out to school boards. We can stand beside the trans kids in our wider community to offer our support and to truly create a just society for all. You know, one of the pathways to hope is realizing community, made through real conversation, through real engagement. A few years ago, I read an article about a group that meets for dinner every Sunday night. They don't get together in the mornings on Sunday. Dinner on Sunday night in just an unassuming building in central Phoenix, Arizona. It's called the Rebel and Divine Congregation. It grew out of a shoe drive for at-risk youth. And this article says the whole idea of this church is to reach young people between the ages of 14 and 25, many of whom have felt alienated by religion. Transgender kids, homeless kids, atheist kids. The leader said, we're building community, we're caring for each other, and that ripple effect, yeah, it's making a better world. Hope found in the ordinary moments of a meal and fellowship. You see, it's not as if we can feel hope one day and then, oh, we get to keep it forever. It doesn't work that way. Hope needs constant renewal. It needs constant renewal like any living thing. It needs fuel, it needs nourishment, it needs protection, it needs tending. And that's what we can do as a beloved community. And I'm not talking about any kind of hope in a life beyond this world. I'm talking about the need for hope right here and right now. There is no doubt that for many people, it takes courage to come out. It takes courage to be who you are, to be authentically you. It takes courage to change, to shift perspective. Change is hard work, but being in community means it's not a solo project. We get to do this together, and together we can offer hope by summoning our courage to not only fly our rainbow flag, to not only proudly display our welcoming congregation poster, but be a part of creating change in the wider community. And at the same time, we nourish and further create beloved community right here. It will not always feel good. This growing, this stretching beyond the boundaries of what we know, of what we understand, the comfortable, this re-examining of beliefs, this pushing of envelopes. So step out, acknowledge the fear and discomfort. And when our own personal visions of hope grow dim, we have a beloved community to reach out to. We have this community. How blessed are we? We can reach out and we can find hope again through sharing our strength. And when the world around us loses its grasp on hope, and boy, that's been happening. And when that does, and when the world reaches out to us, we can be the congregation. We can be the religious community that offers a lifeline of hope. We can say, we know hope is real. We know hope can provide courage. We know hope can inspire change. We know hope is a pathway to community. Hope is possibility. Hope is undeniable. Hope rested in complete and unreserved reality. We can light a pathway to a better future. So let's unfurl our wings. Let's do it together. Let's fly. And may it be so.
Please join me now as we extinguish the chalice. If you would, please repeat the words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Please join me now, or please join us now humming, "We Are a Gentle, Angry People."
We are a gentle, angry people, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together, are singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, are singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, are singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, are singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a gentle, waiting for our love.
Our closing words from Frederick Gillis. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. Shalom. Salam. Amen. Blessed be to each and to all. Namaste.
You can be amazing, you can turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You can be the outcast or be the backlash of somebody's lack of love. You can start speaking up. Nothing's gonna hurt you the way that words do when they settle neath your skin. Cap on the inside and no sunlight, sometimes the shadows win. I wonder what would happen if you say what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave with what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave. Everybody's been there, everybody's been stared down by the enemy, falling for the fear and dumps and disappearing, bow down to the mighty. Don't run, stop holding your tongue. Maybe there's a way out of this cage where you live. Maybe one of these days you can let the light in. Show me how big your brave is. Say what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave with what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly,